It has been a month and I am still at the cottage. At this point, it seems as if I've moved in. Hi, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm talking about Heated Rivalry, the show that seemingly came out of like the ether, grabbed me by the ankles and dragged me down. But I genuinely couldn't be happier about it. I am so glad I watched this show as it was coming out week by week and got to experience this mass pandemonium that was taking place on the internet. I knew nothing of this fandom. I knew nothing of the books. I was just watching the show, but as soon as episode 6 was done, I read both the books. Now I've got the third one on pre-order when it comes out later this year, and I am completely locked in. And when I say I immediately read both the books, I mean that the show ended on December 26th, and I read the first book on the 26th and the second book on the 27th. And as soon as it was over, I think I just like cackled for a solid 5 minutes because I can't believe I consumed that much content that quickly. Truly one of the best book to show adaptations I have ever seen. It was visually stunning on supposedly a very small budget, and the soundtrack is amazing. The actors are amazing. The showrunner is amazing. Shout out to the author of the books as well. So, because I need to get all of my feelings out and put it onto the internet, we are talking about the show and my favorite parts of each episode, because I have watched the show, I've rewatched the show, I've rewatched again, I'm currently rewatching it with my friend. Like, it's a whole thing. So there are just moments from each episode that I could repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, and I say it like that because on rewatches that's what I do. I sit, and then when I get to a good part, I replay it like 3 or 4 times. So yes, the first scene of the first episode is a rewatch, but it's when they first meet. How can you not rewatch the first connection between characters? First of all, it's so stilted and awkward because like they're both 17-year-old extremely talented hockey players, but it just kind of fit into their dynamic as a whole, which we will see later on, but it was so cute. And someone pointed this out, and now I can't unsee it, and now that I can't unsee it, I'm gonna keep seeing it. We see Ilya struggling to light his cigarette, but the second he turns and he sees Shane and Shane starts talking, he's able to light the cigarette, thus the flame, thus the ignite. And that's just such an amazing little detail. Also, another little point that I love about that scene is that after their awkward, barely conversation, Shane goes to turn around to walk away, obviously, to leave. And he kind of like shakes his head as if he's like trying to shake off the bad encounter because he was like, wow, that did not go well. But then Ilya goes back, kind of chirps him, but in like a fun way, like a fun hockey way. And they're like, oh, okay, connection. Long story, interminable. I've only made it to the first scene, but I really liked that initial like teasing, joking connection that they have. The commercial shoot, the one that they're doing the summer before their rookie season even begins. So at this point, they are set rivals. Everyone is pitting them against each other. Like that is set in stone. That's the dynamic. So what got me during this commercial shoot were a few things, but I'll just hit the point that I really, really adore, is that they do a few takes where they like skate up to each other, like put their hockey sticks down and just kind of like seriously stare like they're doing a face-off or something. And they're able to get a few of those serious takes in, but then they start like dissolving into laughter. And it is so cute because it's like, oh my gosh, they're like late teens, whatever they are. They're starting off this amazing career in hockey and they're filming this thing and like they're just having fun. They're laughing because like a part of it is fun. Like they're living out what they've been working so hard for. But my favorite thing is obviously both of them are laughing, but Ilya's laugh just sounds so real and so genuine because it's so different from this like over the top bravado energy he puts out. To hear him like actually laughing is, I really like it. Because I want to jump ahead, but like we don't hear it that often, like at all. All-star game, meeting up in Ilya's hotel room. So Ilya just let Shane in and Shane like aggressively closes the door and he's like, I was standing outside like an idiot. Scott Hunter is like right next door. And in the book, Ilya says that Shane's angry face makes him look like an angry kitten. And let me tell you, that is exactly what Shane looked like in that scene. It was the cutest angry face I have ever seen. I see why Ilya is enamored by him. But the moment immediately after, I don't even think Ilya responds to Shane being like, Scott Hunter is right next door. I don't even think he responds to it, because in like 3 seconds, Shane goes from angry kitten to launching himself at Ilya. And I was like, okay, damn. You could just see in those 2 seconds of silence where Shane is transitioning from annoyed to determined, and then he's on Ilya. That one kiss though, is probably in like top 5 favorite like intimate moments of the show. On the Vegas rooftop, Rookie Awards. Shane won Rookie of the Year, beating out Ilya. Shane goes down the steps and he puts his hand out to Ilya and says, see you next season. Now it's interesting. He actually walks down the stairs, then puts out his hand, kind of forcing Ilya to come towards him or to ignore him. Maybe it was like a little test he was doing in his head to see what Ilya was going to do. Regardless. And at that point, Ilya grabs his hand, kind of pushes him back, and then kisses Shane again. But my favorite part of that little scene is when they break apart again, Ilya goes back to kiss him again, and Shane pushes him back and says, no, we're in public and we're in tuxes like anyone can see. It's not that he didn't want Ilya. It's very obvious he wanted Ilya, but it was because they were in public. But then Ilya smiles and he's very unconcerned. He's like, it's fine. And then Shane says like, no, very much more like putting that line up, putting that boundary up, and you could see the moment where Ilya's face kind of like drops, realizing that they've left that like fun teasing relationship that they had, and now it's like, oh, he's actually annoyed, like I need to stop. The really fun part about Shane and Ilya's relationship is that they toe this line of annoyance and I'm going to use the word adoration, even if maybe that's not what they're thinking at this exact moment in episode 1. But they have a very like teasing, annoying connection that kind of like fuels their passion. But again, that's a very thin line between like annoying and they like it and annoying and it's negative. So as soon as that like negative feeling hits, it's a very stark difference, and you can feel like the tension build in an uncomfortable way. So Ilya goes to Shane's apartment. He has to go through the back door, because this is all, secret, it's all very secret. So he goes to the back door. It's this dark alley. He texts Shane that he's here, and Shane immediately pops like the stair door open, looking all annoyed as if he didn't invite Ilya there to begin with. But Ilya just looks at him from where he propped the door open, and he's like, you will murder me. No, I'm not gonna try a Russian accent, guys. I can't do languages. I'm not even gonna try. But he says, you will murder me. And Shane's like, maybe, get in here. And it's like, it's so funny. Then they're like racing each other up the stairs because they can't do anything unless they're competing with each other. Their comedic timing, though, I think is just fantastic. Like, they are very funny. Like, this is funny. And now leaving Shane's apartment, this one's a 2-parter, because the first time Ilya says he should go, it's after Shane kisses his forehead in the most delicate, precious way that was way too much for what they say their arrangement is. I swear, you could see the moment on Ilya's face where he's like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable. And then Shane kisses his forehead and he's like, I need to get out of here. Connor Story, the actor you are, I read every single emotion on your face and it was perfect. So he leaves, but there's a stairwell moment where they're waiting for Ilya's cab, and Shane is sitting on the stair and he's literally hugging Ilya's coat. Oh my gosh. And they shared the most emotion-filled kiss I have ever seen in my entire life between 2 people who claim do not have any feelings for each other. And I know that's right, because I read an interview and the showrunner is like, that was way too tender, but we're gonna keep it. Because it was so counter to everything they said they've been doing, X, Y, or Z. And I was like, that was incredibly emotional. And I know that kiss is it might be top 3. I don't have like an actual set list of like the best like intimate moments, but that one's probably top 3. It's just so important that moment is so key to their story. When Boston wins the unnamed, nondescript cup, copyright, I watch over and over and over again Shane's reaction to Ilya and Boston winning. Shane is not a very expressive person at all. I believe the actor refers to him as like more robotic, but he has these millions of micro expressions that the actor Hudson Williams pulls off, where you could just watch, and he's not really moving his face, but you can read everything that's going on in his eyes in these like small moments. As Shane watches Ilya win the cup, he is surrounded by his teammates. They're all having like a watch party or something. So he has to school any expression or any commentary, period, because obviously secret. And you can just tell how happy Shane is for Ilya. He starts to tear up a little bit. You could see like his lips trembling a little bit, but he's trying to keep it together. Shane his eyes are locked on that screen with pride, with joy, with, dare I say, love. The entire scene after they present the award together at the MHL Awards, I don't know why I'm struggling to say that so much. The MHL Awards gets me every single time. And okay, I only made it to episode 2. I'm not referencing the book this time. This didn't happen in the book. This happened on the author's blog page because the author has written a few heated rivalry, I hate to call them one-shots, scene editions, scene context. She's done 2 or 3 of these or something, but it's on her website, the author Rachel Reed's website. So she revealed that before Ilya and Shane went out on stage, we know in the show that Ilya was like only showed up like 50 seconds before they had to go on, and Shane was annoyed, and Ilya comes off and he's like, oh, we're fine. But she tells us that Ilya was actually hiding in the bathroom, the very same bathroom that they were in after they presented the award, because Ilya was afraid to face Shane after all this time, after ghosting him basically for like 6 months. He was so afraid to see Shane, he basically had to just like talk himself down. And that adds so much more context and emotion to what we see, what goes on in the bathroom after they present the awards. It kind of transports me back to what happened at the end of episode 1, that push and pull between the teasing fun relationship or the annoyance I don't like you, except this time one of them isn't walking away. They are going to establish some sort of connection. I love this scene so much because now with also a bit of additional context, but even in that scene, just watching the show as is, it's so clear that they both like just want each other so much, but they're also so afraid of wanting it too much and afraid of walking away. And it's like the most complicated dance of give and take. And I will hurt my feelings even more by rewatching just the last few seconds of that episode. We didn't even kiss. Especially after what we saw when they were in the bathroom after the award, that we didn't even kiss. Ow. Shane is everything but falling apart at that point. And it shouldn't matter, but it does, because clearly feelings are involved. It's so sad because you can feel every ounce of sadness Shane feels and how annoyed at himself he is for feeling that sadness, because he knows he like shouldn't be feeling that way. Before we even get into episode 3, I'm sure you already know this, but it needs to be said again. If you did not know, Scott and Kip's book, Game Changer, have not read this book yet, but did you know it is based on a fanfic based on the 2 characters, Marvel's Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. Do not get it twisted. It always comes back to Stucky. This fanfic follows Steve Rogers, the New York Rangers hockey player, and Bucky Barnes, the smoothie guy. Also did not read the fanfic, I just know about it. So that is the extent of my connections that I will make right now in this video. But just remember that it's them. There are not a lot of moments that I repeat from this episode in particular, but the ones I find myself going back to the most are their interactions in the smoothie place. I love watching characters who, like, you know are gonna end up together. I love watching them meet for the first time because I think there's so much energy and so much tension that might not be relevant between the actual characters at the moment, but you know is there. Like, you're like self-asserting and you're like, yes, there's so much angst and oh my gosh, they're gonna get together and oh, this is so exciting, into that first moment that just like is like really exciting. My actual favorite conversation that they had is when they're like just starting to like have more conversations outside of hi, I'd like a smoothie. when Scott starts talking about that the books that he likes to read, they're all like murder mysteries and horrors, and he's talking about mass murderers and the difference between different types of murderers, and I was like, hey, we don't know this person, we don't know this other person, this is like a really intense conversation to be having. Could you imagine not knowing this guy other than what you know about him because he's a famous hockey player and he starts talking to you about murderers? I'd be scared, but not the point. Even though these are two separate scenes, I'm going to put them together because like the same interaction is happening twice in different ways. But when Scott and Elia meet up and they're chirping each other, and then Scott and Shane and they're chirping each other, I repeat those too much. But there are like 15 seconds, not even, I don't even know how long, but there's so much packed into it. This episode really had to pack so much into it because they basically had to introduce an entirely new couple and explain to us their entire story and why it's impactful, like in that time period. So they really packed so much in. So first of all, the chirping, it's comedic gold first and foremost. It's funny. And I know it's supposed to be funny, but I mean, I'm cackling. Like, I'm ugly laughing. I don't know why I find it that funny because I think rage baiting... Can you fix this later? You're literally talking. Rage baiting is, I think, a peak form of comedy. This interaction between Elia and Scott, I completely understand why everyone calls Elia a rage baiter. Because he'll look at Scott and he'll say something, he'll chirp him and Scott will go back, and Elia does not get affected by any sort of chirping or anything. He just smiles this big smile that anybody would want to punch him in the face for. But on that level of that like baseline chirping, like Elia is not bothered. He's gonna bother you, but he is not bothered. Shane, on the other hand, is not Elia. Attitude-wise. Well, in a lot of ways, but attitude-wise for sure. He doesn't rage bait. I don't even think he's, like, able to do that purposefully. Shane goes up to Scott, and, like, they've kind of got a rapport. They're friendly enough, and Shane gives the weakest chirp I have ever heard in my entire life. And again, I say I'm not a sports person, but even I knew that was a weak chirp. With the most genuine, biggest smile on his face, which is different than Elia's smile, because Elia is like, I'm about to piss you off, and Shane's just like genuinely being a nice guy. He says to Scott, like, you know, hope next time we play, you show up. Weak. Unbelievably weak. Precious, but that's what he says to Scott. And it's fine, and it's teasing. He's like, hey, hope you show up. But Scott's not having any of it. Scott brought a nuclear bomb to a water gun fight. Because Scott turns around and says, you're starting to sound like him. Scott didn't even have to say Elia's name, but Shane knew exactly who he was talking about, and Scott knew that Shane knew exactly who he was talking about, and Shane dropped gloves. Well, to be fair, we actually don't know who dropped gloves first, but based on the fact that Shane was really aggressively yelling at Scott, and that's what we saw in the show, I have a feeling Shane dropped gloves first. Because it's so good to watch Scott say that and for Shane's guard to immediately go up. He didn't even try to pretend that he didn't know he was talking about Elia. Like, it was immediate anger. He knew. And it is at this moment I need to quickly give a shout out to the entire fanfic community who has been providing commentary and fan-in about what happened in those moments, what Shane was thinking, what Scott was thinking, what Elia was thinking, what Yuna was thinking. I actually need more of Yuna because her little golden boy Canada, got into a fight after the game. This didn't even happen in the game. Game was over and they got into a fight. All of those reactions, I need more, actually. And I want to thank the showrunner, Jacob Tierney, and the directors, the writers, whoever else, who decided to add that scene in, because that didn't happen in the book. And the last part I rewatched, because again, I just like to hurt my feelings all the time, is Scott walking away from Kip's birthday party after they've broken up, decided they can't, keep going in the way that they're going, and cut to the Olympics where Scott puts on the socks that Kip got him. The story is so heartbreaking, knowing that Both Scott and Kip are out there feeling so much, feeling so strongly, knowing that it couldn't go on because of how hidden they had to be, and how Scott puts the socks on, but then puts other socks over it, representing that hidden even more in a very obvious way. Okay, so I'm gonna be entirely honest. I just got a glimpse at how long I have been talking for on my little viewfinder, and I've been talking for a really long time. And we haven't even gotten to the last 3 episodes, which will definitely be really long. So here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna take a pause. I'm gonna make another video. And by make another video, it means I'm gonna sit here and still film the rest of the 3 episodes, but I'm going to split up the videos so that I'm not just throwing like an hour-long chunk at you guys. So this was the conclusion of 1, 2, and 3, my favorite moments of Heated Rivalry. If you've never seen the show before and you watched this entire video, thank you so much. Get on HBO or Crave right now and watch the show, read the books. You won't regret it. Like and subscribe down below. I will post this next one. I won't wait 2 weeks. I'll just do it the week later. I'll edit as fast as I can. And until next time, I will see you back at the cottage really soon. Bye.